Hello and welcome back to Advent of Tess. Today is day 12 and we are going to be folding Convergence. So one thing I haven't talked about so far in the series is tilings. Tilings is a fancy way of saying what twists are connected and in what order. So far we've been working in 3 different tilings, equilateral triangles, alternating hexagons and triangles, which I call hexagons and triangles sixfold, and in the hexagon, triangle, rhombus, triangle tiling, which I call HTRT for short. Today we're continuing working in the HTRT tiling, but tomorrow we're going to be working in a different tiling where the rhombi come first before the triangles. So today we're doing the open triangle version of what we did yesterday, where we've got a open hexagon with open triangles on the back, then closed rhombi on the hexagon side, and we get to continue out like that. And then tomorrow tomorrow and the next day we're going to look at this open hexagon and then rhombi on the other side with closed, and then the next day with open triangles. So this is a different way of organizing the twists, but we'll still be using the twists that we've been using all along. So let's jump in. We'll start with the open hexagon twist because it's in the center. And as usual, we will find the right-hand corner of our paper, go 1 grid spacing up, fold that in most of the way to the center, but not through. Passing that off to the left hand, I'll find the next pleat, again 1 spacing away from the corner, and pass and pleat, and pass and pleat, and pass and pleat, and set up all of the pleats that I need for this open hexagon twist. Laying it down on my desk, I can push from the top. This is really the easiest twist to squash, and get all of my pleats laid down. And now I will flip over to the back side, and just like day 8, we will be putting open triangles on the back at 2 pleat spacing. So I'm gonna pick a pleat, find the valley 1 spacing from the folded mountain, then the mountain 1 spacing from the valley, and this will define my target triangle in here, where I can open. It's important, we need to open this pleat before we find the grid line that lays on the 3rd side of the triangle, then squash our twist. And since our rhombus is going to be on the hexagon side, we're going to continue and open the bottom of the tube to form our next open triangle twist. And continue around, folding each open triangle in turn. And no, I do not use time-lapse in my videos. I really do fold this quickly. But that's not to say that you should. The pause button, again, is there for a reason. So I'm setting up each of my open triangles and making sure that everything is laying on grid lines before I squash. So with this final round, I'm going to need to reference the tube somehow, and I can still reference it to this valley inside here. So I'm going 2 spacings out from that valley to make the new valley, and then the new mountain. I can also say, hey, the corners of all of these triangles came to exactly the corner of the central hole, my valley fold needs to go to the corner of the twist. So therefore, that's where my valley needs to go. And so I'll set up this open triangle twist, and I've got a pleat overlap on both sides, and squash. And I will take the odd one out, the last pleat overlap, and reorder my pleats so that I have 6 identical pleat overlaps. And then I'll flip over. And now instead of putting a closed hexagon, or an open hexagon for that matter, I am going to open the pleat overlap. And just like yesterday, we've got the through line coming from the top pleat and the new diagonal pleat going straight to the corner of our hexagon. And we can get that all in place. And I'm going to make sure to squash from the inside to the outside to make sure that things aren't wiggling as I squash. So I've got this long pleat, that will be my through line. And then my remaining diagonal pleat will go straight to the corner of the hexagon, holding these 3 pleats firmly in place. I can squash from the center to the outside and get that twist down even though it's right on the edge. So I think I mentioned this in a previous video. We have twists that are right at the edge now, but no more partial twists. And I'll go around and continue to do this for the remainder of my pleat overlaps and turn them all into rhombus twists. So I've got one here and one more. So this is the hexagon triangle rhombus triangle tiling. And you can know that because you put the triangles next to the hexagon, and then the pleat overlaps of the triangles form rhombi. And when you're further out, when you have so a note about like how to propagate these, when you have your hexagon in a position of 6-fold rotational symmetry, then your rhombus ends up in a position of 2-fold rotational symmetry, which means that the triangles here are not in positions of rotational symmetry at all, because one end went to a hexagon, one end went to the fat corner of a rhombus, and one end went to the skinny corner of a rhombus. So there's no rotational symmetry around the triangle at all. But we do have rotational symmetry around this rhombus, and so we get to repeat. Basically, this rhombus is the same as this rhombus and would have the same things on this side of it that this one would have on that same side. So when you're looking at these, look for the rhombus opposite the hexagon as a guide on how to move forward. Tomorrow we will be looking at open hexagons and closed rhombi with closed triangles in a different arrangement than we have before, where the rhombi come first before the triangles. So happy folding, and I will see you there.